All right, today we are going to put in a brand new RC Killer Kit. This is our prototype single Add-A-Leaf. We're going to be testing it out today on the 3rd gen here. Once we get this installed, we'll do some measurements, get some height, see how much we gain from it. We're thinking we're gonna gain about 1.5 to 2 inches with this, which will be perfect for those people that want to keep their overload swing. Instead of going with the 3-leaf pack that we offer, this will be a good option for you to go with. As you can see, Chad's legs hanging out from underneath the vehicle. He's already pulled out the front suspension. We decided to change out to some donor 4600s that we had around the shop, and we paired it with our D40 FM coil, which is what would come with the RC Killer Kit. And we're gonna install these bad boys, give them a nice little upgrade compared to the factory SVs. And then we'll go back to the back and start working on the single leaf Add-A-Leaf. All right, so one of the hardest parts about doing any of these lift kits with the Nissans is getting the lower cam bolts out. He's underneath there right now, currently working on getting the cam bolts out. He's got a air hammer. We've already got the bolts loose, but they're not sliding out because they're seized. So he's in there with the air hammer trying to force it out of its hole so we can put the new adjustable camber bolt in. That will be the hardest part, in my opinion, of the whole install process. Everything else is kind of self-explanatory. Take out a part, you put in a part. In this scenario, you have to work to get that part out. So this will be your hardest part of the whole entire project, but it's 100% doable. All right, so we're gonna slide in the passenger side AAL. And so first, we've already taken out the center pin. It's sitting in here still, loose. So what we'll do at this point is I'm gonna take these C-clamps and I'm just gonna put them on the very outer edge of the leaf pack to kind of keep them, it doesn't need to be completely compressed, but just to keep it somewhat thin. So we're not getting really wide, spread out sections. So I'm just gonna put that on real quick. Get a rear one and a front one on. And this will help us keep everything in line as well. That's really the main thing with these. All right, so now we're gonna shift the driveline out of the way. Try to get this pin out. There we go, got the pin out. Now we're gonna remove the overload bracket that's holding it in, the bolt right there. It's an Allen key. So we're gonna take that out, and then this whole overload's gonna sit down out of the way, and then we'll slide in the new single leaf Add-A-Leaf at the very bottom. Short side forward. So one other thing to note when you are getting into this project, make sure that you have all of your components supported. We did 2 floor jacks. And then we took another, you can either use a floor jack, but in our case we have a rolling seat that we like to use because it happens to be the perfect height. But you can do another floor jack, but you want to support your drive line as well. Because once you disconnect the U-bolts, there's nothing actually supporting the axle. And if you let it bend and wonk all over different ways, you could do damage to the joints. So always make sure you have all your components supported so that way they're not being pulled or pushed in the wrong direction. Always want to clean up as you go. Might as well clean it up a little bit. Looks like we're not lined up perfectly with the holes, so I'm going to take these back off and shift everything and get it lined up properly, and then we'll put on the Add-A-Leaf. There we go. All right, get nice and centered. So at this point, now that we've lined up these leaves, we're gonna take the Add-A-Leaf, put it underneath here, get it lined up properly, and then we will add the C-clamps to hold everything in place while we take this out and flip it around and get it up through the base and then tighten it down. And And once we have the C-clamps on there, like I said, everything will stay nice and snug, and then that'll make it nice and easy to line everything up. Now, look at that pretty thing. So then we have a longer side and a short side. If you can tell, it's very hard, but this side is slightly shorter. And we'll put a USA sticker, made in USA, because obviously this is made in the US like all of our other products. So we'll put a made in USA sticker on the side that goes forward. That's nice and lined up. Add the C-clamps on, oh, don't fall out. And you just do it on the very, very end of the addle leaf, because you don't want it to be in the way of when you add the overload back in. So it needs to be on the very end of the addle leaf to hold it in place. Kind of figure out the best place to put it. There is a plastic anti-squeak pad in there, so you don't want to damage that. So just make sure you're not putting the base of the C-clamp on that little nipple. We just got this through. The base, what we had to do is take this and you just have to shift the axle forward. On that side, it's easy. There's enough play in all of the cables and cords that you can push it forward and get it through. On this one, sorry, push back. I apologize. You push it back. Plenty of slack over here. Over here, there's not enough slack. So what we recommend is remove emergency cable bolt right there, and that gives you enough slack to push it back and then get the bolt through, and then you're able to realign everything afterwards. Besides removing this, it should be straightforward. You're just shifting the axle to get this in through the base. Make sure that you have your overload on, your addle leaf, and then all your 3 leaves above lined up and in order, and then you just slide that straight up through. That's going to probably be your most time consuming part, is making sure everything is lined up 100%, so that way when you get this shifted, all you got to do is slide that bolt right through, put the nut on, and then you cut off the extra. On this part right here, you want to make sure that you have this super tight, and that means all of these leaves should be nice and tight, touching each other all the way through, so that way this section is basically one solid piece, and all of your motion, all your flexing is happening from the bracket outward. So if you don't have that properly tight, there's a chance that you could crack a leaf because it's not properly held together. So always make sure this is down super tight. Obviously you don't want to break it. You know, keep that in mind. This is a breakable bolt. So do this tight, 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 and you're gonna start getting resistance. Right here, you can see it's very close to contact. It's still got good movement happening, and I can feel it tightening. So now we're starting to have contact, and just give it a couple more really good pulls. And there we go. That is nice and tight all the way through. And then our U-bolts will do the rest of the work. But always make sure this is good and tight. We have full contact on all your leaves, so that way everything functions properly. We are now ready to shorten the through bolt on the leaf pack. Once we cut that down short, we will then take our top plate, place the top plate over the nut on that, and then we will drop our U-bolts down and put our bottom plate on, and then torque everything down to proper torque specs, and we will be done with this. In the process of finishing this up, always make sure that you put anything that you have pulled apart, released, to make this an easier job. Make sure you reassemble everything back the same way that you took it apart. That's very important in this aspect, to make sure everything functions properly after you're done. But on to the next step, we're gonna cut that bolt, we're gonna cap these, get the U-bolts on, get everything torqued together, and we should be ready to go. All right, once you've got all that done, and we have to lower this down to put those heads into the axle, so that way everything's lined up properly. The best thing that we have found to do is just at that point, lower the vehicle down just a little bit, so that way there's a little bit of pressure from the bolt head on the axle. And by doing that, you're able to then move the axle a little bit, and it should just drop right into that hole because it has that pressure to push in. Once you've done that, it's sunk in now. Currently, we have it all together. We're ready to go. We're ready to cut this top bolt, put the cap, and put the U-bolts on, and we are 100% completed with this project. So those are the last steps. We'll bang those out real quick, do a little B-roll for that stuff, and we'll be good to go. All right, so we are complete. Everything is in, all the parts are in, snug but not torqued. So the next step that we are going to do is we're going to torque everything down to get the wheels back on and set it on the ground. So we're going to torque our U-bolts, we're going to torque our shock bolts all the way around, make sure everything is 100% correct, and then you'll be ready to roll out. All right, really appreciate you guys checking us out. If you have any other questions, concerns around this install, hit us up in the comments or give us a call anytime, 9 to 5 Central Standard Time.